Clean that stain. Use your dirty shirt, Brenda Shaw hissed, her voice a low, cutting sound. She pointed at the critical investor prospectus, its pristine cover ruined by spilled coffee. 3 identical 4-year-old girls, their matching faces streaked with tears from the bitter cold outside, sat before her. The smallest, Violet, reached for her sleeve, her hands trembling. Behind Brenda, the billionaire Oliver Hayes froze as he watched the scene unfold from the security desk. What the cruel executive office manager didn't know was that her boss was about to act, and this single moment of casual corporate cruelty would unravel a 7-year-old secret, destroy Brenda's career, and reunite Oliver with the 3 daughters he never knew existed. The harsh words echoed slightly in the sleek glass lobby of Summit Tower in the financial district. Brenda Shaw adjusted her expensive pencil dress. Outside, the frigid air poured down on the busy streets. Inside, Brenda guarded the corporate fortress of Hayes Holdings. The 3 small girls huddled closer together against a cold marble column. They were 4 years old, identical in their dark curly hair and large brown eyes, but their tattered clothes made them stand out starkly against the tower's perfect white floors. "We're just trying to stay warm," said Lily, the tallest of the triplets, her voice soft but brave. "Our mommy is sick." "I don't care," Brenda snapped, her lips painted bright red. "This is the heart of global finance. Rich people do business here. They don't want to see dirty children begging." Inside Summit Tower, deals worth fortunes were brokered daily. Brenda, as the executive office manager, ensured the environment was perfectly controlled and believed only a certain class of people belonged inside. She often instructed the security team, "Keep the undesirables out." "Please," said the middle triplet Rose, "we're hungry. Our mommy has been in bed for many days. She can't work." Their mother, Evelyn Clark, a former receptionist, had been ill with severe pneumonia for 2 weeks. They lived far away in Stanton and had walked for hours seeking help. A sudden gust of wind pushed the smallest girl, Violet, off balance. She stumbled and knocked over the paper coffee cup Brenda had set on a nearby ledge. Hot, dark coffee splashed across a folder. "This cost us a year of research." Brenda gasped, her professional facade shattering as she grabbed Violet's arm, her face twisting in rage. "You filthy little thing." Violet whispered, her eyes wide with fear as Brenda's hand tightened. "Clean that stain. Use your dirty shirt." As Violet slowly began to lower her head toward the ruined document, a deep voice cut through the tension. "What the hell is happening here?" Oliver Hayes stood in the doorway, his perfectly tailored suit contrasting with the raw anger in his blue eyes. They were focused entirely on Brenda's hand, gripping the child's arm. "Mr. Hayes," Brenda stammered, quickly releasing Violet. "I was just dealing with these trespassers. They ruined a major prospectus." Oliver took a step forward. "By forcing a hungry child to clean a coffee stain with her own clothes?" His voice was quiet but devastating. "You're fired, Brenda. Clear out your office right now. We don't treat people that way, especially children. Get your things and leave." Oliver Hayes knelt down in the pristine lobby of Summit Tower. The fury he felt moments ago at Brenda Shaw was now replaced by a chilling realization. He gently scooped up the 3 shivering girls, his expensive suit now dusted with lobby grime. He ignored the stares of the remaining staff and escorted Lily, Rose, and Violet swiftly to the private executive elevators. The children huddled close, finding silent comfort in the warmth of his body. In his vast, silent private office, Oliver sat the trio on his plush leather couch. He immediately called Amy Lee, his assistant, instructing her to send a security team to keep the press outside and to bring emergency provisions: dry clothes, blankets, and anything warm and sweet. As the girls gratefully accepted mugs of hot chocolate and tore into the expensive pastries Amy had quickly delivered, Oliver watched them. He was a master of finance, capable of predicting market collapses and closing billion-dollar deals, but looking at these 3 small faces, his mind was blank. He had no idea what to do. Then the questions began, soft as whispers but sharp enough to pierce the protective shell he'd built around his memory. "What are your names?" he asked, his voice unexpectedly gentle. Between sips of chocolate, Lily spoke first. "I'm Lily. That's Rose. And she's Violet." "Those are beautiful names," Oliver said, and a new, unsettling wave of recognition washed over him. It wasn't just the names, it was the girls themselves. The way their eyebrows arched when they concentrated reminded him of his own mother, Charlotte. And their chins, square, stubborn, they were exactly like his. They weren't just similar, they were miniature reflections. "Where is your mother, children?" he asked, his heart beginning to hammer against his ribs. "She's sick in bed," Rose explained. "She has a bad cough and fever. She told us to find help because we had no more food." "What's your mother's name?" Oliver asked, his breath catching in his throat. He already knew the answer. "Evelyn Clark," Violet whispered, her eyes wide as she looked at him. The coffee cup Oliver held stopped halfway to the mahogany desk. Evelyn Clark. The name hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't spoken that name in 7 years. He saw the images flash in his mind, a beautiful, quiet woman with warm skin and bright eyes. The way she used to laugh, the way she smelled like lemon polish and wildflowers. She had been the receptionist in his smaller corporate office before the move to Summit Tower 7 years ago. They had fallen into a secret, intense relationship. Then one day she was gone. No note, no call, just an empty apartment. He had searched, hired investigators, but she had vanished completely. Oliver looked at the 3 girls again, counting backward. They were 4 years old. Evelyn had left his employment 7 years ago. The timeline matched exactly. The girls had Evelyn's eyes, but his chin. These weren't just lost children, they were his daughters. Oliver sat down slowly in his chair. His heart raced, years of disciplined emotion giving way to shock. After all these years, Evelyn had come back into his life through these 3 little girls. He had 1,000 questions, but first he had to ensure they were safe. "I knew your mother a long time ago," he said, keeping his voice steady despite the chaos in his head. "I want to help you and her. Where do you live?" Lily quickly gave him their address in Stanton. Oliver knew what he had to do. He picked up his phone and called his most trusted investigator, Robert Bell. He had a mission far more important than any business deal. He had a family. His heart pounding with a mixture of terror and determination, Oliver Hayes placed 2 quick calls. First, to Amy Lee, instructing her to stay with Lily, Rose, and Violet, to keep them warm, fed, and completely shielded. Second, to Robert Bell, his most trusted private investigator. "Robert, I need you on the ground in Stanton right now. I have an address. Find Evelyn Clark. She's critically ill. Move." Within minutes, Oliver was in his armored car, speeding toward the address the girls had given him. He passed the reins of his multi-billion-dollar corporation to his executive team, a formality now meaningless compared to the chaos unfolding in his personal world. Robert Bell was already in Stanton. The address led him to a dilapidated building with peeling paint and broken mailboxes. Showing Evelyn's photo, he quickly found a neighbor who recognized her, Maria Gomez. "Evelyn? She lives next door," Maria told Robert, her face etched with worry. "Haven't seen her in days. My husband and I were sick with worry when the girls disappeared this morning." Maria let Robert into Evelyn's tiny apartment. Inside, the scene was devastating. Evelyn lay on a thin mattress on the floor, barely conscious. The air was cold, the space devoid of heat or food, but the room itself was fiercely tidy. Her breathing was shallow, rattled by a severe cough, and her forehead burned with a fever that pulsed under Robert's touch. "She needs a hospital now," Robert immediately told Oliver over the phone. "It's bad. Very bad." Oliver arrived 30 minutes later. The sight of Evelyn, so thin, so pale, fighting for every breath, hit him harder than the spilled coffee, the lawsuit threats, or the boardroom drama combined. He fell to his knees beside the mattress. "Evelyn," he whispered, his hand grasping hers. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Then a spark of recognition. "Oliver? How?" "Don't talk. We're getting you help," he assured her. Maria Gomez explained everything. Evelyn had been working grueling admin jobs to keep the girls afloat, often going without food for herself. When the pneumonia took hold, she couldn't work, couldn't buy food, and eventually couldn't even stand. The paramedics arrived, carefully moving Evelyn onto a stretcher. As they lifted her, she reached for Oliver's hand one last time. "The girls," she whispered, her voice almost gone. "My babies. They're safe," Oliver promised. "They found me, Evelyn. They came to Summit Tower." Tears streamed from her eyes. "I never wanted you to find out like this," she managed before losing consciousness. Oliver rode with her to St. Jude's Medical Center, holding her hand, consumed by the realization that while he was building his empire, the mother of his children was fighting to survive alone, just a few miles away. At St. Jude's Medical Center, Oliver demanded the best specialists and round-the-clock care, regardless of cost. He wouldn't lose her again. Meanwhile, Robert Bell remained at the Stanton apartment to collect vital information. He returned to the hospital armed with the official medical records. Evelyn Clark had given birth to triplets exactly 4 years and 3 months ago, 9 months after she vanished from Oliver's life. The evidence was irrefutable. Oliver looked at the document, the truth sinking in completely. They were his. Lily, Rose, and Violet were his daughters. He had a family. He arranged for an immediate, confidential DNA test. A courier arrived the next afternoon with the results. With hands that shook despite his years of corporate composure, Oliver opened the envelope. The probability was 99.9%. The relief was overwhelming, quickly followed by the crushing weight of lost time. He had missed their first words, their first steps, their entire 4 years of life. That wouldn't happen again. Oliver immediately called his attorney, Grace Allen. "Grace, I have a situation. A complicated one. I need you here in an hour." When Grace arrived, Oliver explained everything in a rapid-fire download: the cruelty, the hospital, the secret past. Grace listened, her professional facade unbroken, though her eyes widened at the scale of the revelation. "Mr. Hayes, this is extraordinary," Grace stated, reviewing the DNA report. "You'll need to establish legal paternity and immediately arrange for full protective custody. She kept them from you for 4 years. The courts will be cautious." "I know," Oliver said, his voice hard with resolve. "But those girls are my responsibility now. They are my daughters. I want them protected, and I want Evelyn protected. We will do whatever it takes to ensure they stay with me. I've missed 4 years. I won't miss any more time." Furious and ruined, Brenda Shaw sat in a sterile coffee shop, her face tight with rage. She had lost her 6-figure job and her status, all because of a coffee stain and 3 street rats. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number of Scott Harris, a notorious tabloid reporter at the Metro Chronicle. "Scott, it's Brenda. I have the story of the decade for you. A story about Oliver Hayes and his shocking new family of homeless children." Scott Harris arrived, eager for the dirt on the notoriously private billionaire. Brenda spun a tale of a cold, manipulative boss who used and discarded employees, suggesting Oliver had taken the girls for suspicious reasons, possibly even a calculated PR stunt. The next morning, the headlines screamed, "Billionaire's suspicious interest in homeless girls. What's Oliver Hayes really after?" The articles were garbage, filled with innuendo and outright lies, but the damage was immediate. Amy Lee called Oliver at the hospital. "Sir, the press is surrounding Summit Tower. We've got major clients pulling out, citing reputational risk. The Hayes Holdings stock has dipped 4 points in the last hour alone." Oliver felt the corporate fallout hit, but his focus remained absolute. "Hold the line, Amy. I'm handling a more important crisis here." He knew he had to control the narrative, but his priority was protecting Evelyn and the girls. He called Grace Allen, his attorney, to prepare a massive defamation lawsuit, but Grace cautioned him to focus on the custody fight first. The social services intervention followed swiftly. The articles had attracted official attention. Oliver received a call. Paul Foster from Social Services was assigning a Child Protective Services investigator, Linda Martin, to his case due to the media's serious concerns. Linda Martin would be visiting his penthouse home the next morning. Oliver rubbed his temples, the stress of business and fatherhood colliding violently. He had spent years building an impenetrable empire, only to have it rocked by a 4-year-old's accidental spill and a single woman's spite. He knew the world was about to judge him not as a CEO, but as a father who suddenly appeared after 4 years of absence. He had to rush back to the penthouse to prepare for the invasion of his newly established family life. Linda Martin arrived at the penthouse exactly at 9 a.m. She was stern, formal, and armed with a clipboard, representing the full force of the state. "Mr. Hayes, I'm here to assess the welfare of Lily, Rose, and Violet Clark," she stated. "Please come in," Oliver replied, cutting straight to the point. "But I want to be clear. Their names are now Hayes. They are my daughters, confirmed by DNA testing." Linda Martin raised an eyebrow but accepted the documentation, scrutinizing the results confirming Oliver's 99.9% paternity. "I still need to complete my investigation," she said. I must interview the children separately, inspect the living conditions and discuss your parenting plan. While Linda Martin meticulously interviewed the girls in their new bedroom, asking simple, direct questions, Oliver was interrupted by an urgent call from his business partner, Ethan Price. "Oliver, we're hemorrhaging funds," Ethan said, sounding panicked. "The Henderson account is pulling out. 3 other clients are questioning their contracts. They don't want to be associated with this negative tabloid press." Oliver closed his eyes, millions of dollars slipping through his fingers. "Try to schedule a meeting. I will explain everything." The weight of the crisis was immense. Oliver realized that his attempts to do the right thing, to save Evelyn and protect his daughters, had launched a public war against his reputation. Meanwhile, in the bedroom, Linda Martin asked Lily about the differences between her old life and her new one. Lily, sensing the tension, spoke bravely. "It's bigger here," Lily said, "and the towels are soft. But we want Mommy to come home. We are safe here with Daddy." After the interview, Linda Martin inspected the massive penthouse, the luxury contrasting sharply with the girl's former life. She found no fault with the cleanliness or safety, but the sudden opulence raised red flags. Oliver met with his attorney, Grace Allen, later that afternoon. Grace emphasized the danger of the suspicious interest narrative. "The DNA is your shield, Oliver, but your sudden arrival is the weapon against us," Grace warned. "We need to show the judge that this isn't a whimsical acquisition, but the reclamation of family." Oliver nodded. He realized his wealth, usually his greatest asset, was now his biggest liability. He knew he had to find a way to discredit the source of the gossip and prove to the court that his commitment was sincere. He had to convince the world he was a father, not just a financier. The pressure was mounting. The next meeting with Linda Martin would be crucial. At St. Jude's Medical Center, Evelyn Clark was finally sitting up, responding well to antibiotics. Her doctor confirmed she was stable, but still extremely weak from malnutrition and exhaustion. Oliver arrived, looking tired and carrying the burden of the financial crisis and the looming CPS threat. He showed Evelyn the article from the Metro Chronicle on his tablet. Evelyn read the headline, "Gold Digger Mom Evelyn Clark Deliberately Got Pregnant," and the fabricated details accusing her of planning the pregnancy to trap Oliver. Her hands began to shake violently. "This is terrible," she whispered, tears forming. "This is all my fault. If I hadn't kept the girls from you, none of this would be happening. Now your business is suffering because of me." "No," Oliver said firmly, taking her hand. "This is Brenda's revenge. She's feeding Scott Harris lies. Listen to me, Evelyn. Nothing matters more than you and our daughters. Not my business, not what people say. Nothing." Evelyn wiped her eyes. "But the girls? What are they saying about them?" Oliver explained that Linda Martin was investigating and had already interviewed the girls. Evelyn tensed at the mention of CPS. "Could they take the girls away?" she asked, the old fear of the foster system resurfacing. "I won't let that happen," Oliver promised. "The DNA test proves I'm their father. We will fight this together." Later that day, Linda Martin visited the penthouse for a follow-up, observing a planned visit by Amy Lee, who helped the girls with simple homework. "I need to understand the dynamics, Mr. Hayes," Linda Martin stated. "You are inexperienced as a parent, and Miss Clark has a history of poverty and instability. This sudden integration is highly unusual." Oliver explained his new routine, emphasizing that he delegated meetings and cleared his schedule. He then subtly shared Maria Gomez's testimony about Evelyn's fierce dedication as a mother. Miss Clark walked miles to ensure her girls went to preschool. She went without food to feed them. Her instability was circumstantial poverty, not negligence. Linda Martin met with Oliver and Evelyn together the next day. She was direct. "I'm concerned about the sudden co-parenting setup. Mr. Hayes only discovered he was a father 4 days ago. We are figuring this out together for the girls," Evelyn said, her voice weak but firm. "They deserve to know their father, and I know now I made a terrible mistake in leaving." Oliver reinforced her statement. "We share 3 little girls who need both of us. We are uniting as a family." Despite their genuine commitment, Linda Martin's expression remained skeptical. As she left, she told them she had a primary recommendation. "Based on my initial findings and the dramatic shift in their lives, I'm recommending the children be placed in temporary foster care while we complete a full assessment." "No." Oliver shouted, his chair scraping back across the floor. Evelyn gasped, reaching for the girls who were playing quietly nearby. The fight had just become existential. Grace Allen arrived at the hospital 20 minutes later, filing an emergency petition to block the immediate removal of the children. The judge set a preliminary hearing for the following morning. Linda Martin stiffly conceded the delay but insisted on their presence in court. Evelyn was adamant. "I need to be at that hearing. No one is taking my children." Against the strong objections of the hospital staff, Evelyn signed herself out. She was pale but driven by a primal determination. Oliver secured a wheelchair and brought her to the waiting car. "You should be resting," he stressed as they drove toward the courthouse. "I've raised those girls for 4 years by myself," Evelyn replied, her focus unshakable. "I'm not letting some government worker take them because we were poor." At the courthouse, a hostile crowd of reporters crowded the entrance, shouting questions as Oliver's security team cleared a path for Evelyn's wheelchair. "Mr. Hayes, is it true these children are your abandoned family?" Inside they met with Grace Allen. Maria Gomez arrived, having brought Lily, Rose, and Violet to the courthouse. "We need a strategy," Grace instructed. "The judge is fair but focused on welfare. Oliver, your paternity is pending. Evelyn, you must explain your actions honestly." While they prepared, Scott Harris published another piece online. Billionaire tries to buy children. Hayes using wealth to claim custody of homeless girls. It outrageously compared Oliver to human traffickers. Oliver nearly threw his phone. "This is outrageous. I'm suing him for defamation." "One battle at a time," Grace reminded him. "We file the lawsuit after we secure custody." Meanwhile, back at the almost empty Summit Tower, a quiet sales associate named Chloe King overheard Brenda Shaw gloating about Oliver's troubles. Chloe had a better memory than Brenda assumed. She called Oliver's office and left a quiet, crucial tip with Amy Lee. "Tell Mr. Hayes Brenda recognized Evelyn before the shoe incident. She knew exactly who that mother was." Oliver immediately diverted his security team to review the Summit Tower footage from the weeks prior. Within hours they had the visual proof. 3 weeks earlier, Brenda had seen a desperate Evelyn at the entrance, recognized her, and had security dismiss her, deliberately turning away the mother of Oliver's children. Oliver's quiet rage intensified. Brenda's cruelty was not random, it was a targeted act of malice. This evidence would be the key to their defense, turning the focus from Oliver's negligence to Brenda's corporate conspiracy. The unexpected arrival of Maria Gomez at the courthouse proved to be an emotional cornerstone for the family and a legal asset for Grace Allen. Maria was a rock of clear, unwavering testimony regarding Evelyn's character. She sat with Oliver and Evelyn in a side room, assuring them of her support. "I've known Evelyn for almost 4 years, Maria stated. "She is the best mother I've ever seen. Those girls never missed a day of school. She taught them to read. She went hungry so they could eat. She is a wonderful woman." This first-hand account countered the CPS report's focus on poverty being evidence of neglect. Maria's words established that Evelyn's home was poor but overflowing with love and devotion. Just before the hearing, as the lawyers reviewed their notes, Oliver's security team sent Grace Allen the recovered Summit Tower footage. The video showed a tired, vulnerable Evelyn at the lobby doors 3 weeks earlier, asking Brenda for assistance or possibly work. Brenda, recognizing her former co-worker and the woman she knew Oliver had an affair with, dismissed her with a smug wave to security. Grace Allen watched the footage. "This is perfect, Oliver. This shows malicious intent on Brenda's part. She not only targeted the girls out of spite, but she knew who they were, and she deliberately sought to harm you and Evelyn." This key detail transformed the custody battle. It allowed Grace to shift the focus from the Hayes Holdings crisis, caused by Oliver's suspicious interest, to a personal vendetta orchestrated by a disgruntled, unethical former employee. The entire basis of the negative media coverage, the Metro Chronicle articles by Scott Harris, was compromised, all thanks to one sharp-eyed associate and one kind neighbor. With this new evidence in hand, the defense was ready to face Judge Patricia Davis. The preliminary court hearing was a moment of agonizing suspense. The high-profile custody battle, fueled by the smear campaign, saw the formidable Judge Patricia Davis weigh the evidence. Oliver Hayes' attorney, Grace Allen, presented the DNA confirmation, but the judge remained focused on the sudden, drastic shift in the children's lives. After a tense recess, the judge delivered her order. The final decision would be delayed for 1 week. The children were allowed to remain with Oliver and Evelyn Clark, but the temporary custody came with a significant condition: continuous, direct supervision by a court-appointed monitor. Maya Singh, a professional observer, was immediately dispatched to the Hayes residence to oversee every interaction and report back to the court. They had won a reprieve, but their lives were now under a microscope. Leaving the courthouse, Oliver caught sight of Brenda Shaw across the street, a smug, contemptuous smirk confirming that the entire media spectacle was driven by her personal malice. Oliver knew then that his fight was not just for custody but for justice. Back at the penthouse, Maya Singh immediately began setting up her observation post in the children's wing. She was strictly professional, informing Evelyn that all interactions would be documented and recorded as proof for the judge. Evelyn, already fragile, found her privacy completely stripped away. Just as the monitoring began, the front door opened, and an unexpected ally walked in. It was Oliver's mother, Charlotte Hayes, who had flown in after seeing the news. Oliver was stunned. Charlotte's acceptance of Evelyn and the 3 children was instantaneous and unconditional. She offered Evelyn a warm embrace, thanking her for raising her beautiful granddaughters. Charlotte's immediate bonding with Lily, Rose, and Violet was genuine, a critical emotional win that Maya Singh noted down in her report. Furthermore, Charlotte offered to testify at the next hearing, confirming her son's character and lending vital credibility to Evelyn. The emotional scaffolding around the new family unit was strengthening, preparing them for the intense pressure to come. The fragile peace was violently broken the next morning. Scott Harris, driven by Brenda's spite, published a new, more toxic article. Gold digger mom Evelyn Clark deliberately got pregnant to claim Hayes' fortune. Evelyn was devastated, fearing the lie would destroy Oliver's reputation and lead the court to permanently take her daughters. Oliver, however, was already moving to eliminate the threat at its source. His investigation team confirmed that Brenda Shaw was actively trying to cover her tracks. She had remotely accessed the corporate accounting system of Hayes Holdings the previous night to delete records of her financial misdeeds. The team successfully recovered the evidence. Detailed proof that Brenda had embezzled approximately $130,000 over 5 years. Armed with this indisputable proof, Oliver strategically placed a call to Brenda's private number. When Brenda answered, her voice was shaky. Oliver bypassed small talk and immediately confirmed he possessed the full evidence of her theft. He informed her that her only option was to meet him the next day to discuss the terms of her complete surrender. The confrontation was calculated and precise, the opening move in a strategic checkmate. The following morning, Brenda Shaw sat across the desk from Oliver, the same desk from which she had previously wielded corporate power. Her expensive attire could not hide the fear that now defined her. Maya Singh was present, tablet in hand, recording the entire meeting. Oliver placed the thick folder containing the embezzlement evidence on the desk. He calmly explained that the theft alone was sufficient for a significant prison sentence. Brenda pleaded to repay the money, but Oliver denied her. Her freedom, he stated, was the only currency left. Oliver offered his deal. Brenda would appear in court as a witness for the defense. She was required to confess 2 things. First, that she embezzled funds from Hayes Holdings. Second, and more crucially, that she had recognized Evelyn Clark weeks before the incident and had deliberately fed false information to Scott Harris out of malice and revenge for being fired. In exchange for this public confession, Oliver would guarantee no criminal charges would be filed against her. Brenda balked, realizing Oliver intended to use her complete public humiliation to secure his family. But with the threat of federal prison looming, she had no choice. After a tense negotiation, Brenda capitulated, reluctantly agreeing to testify. As she left, Maya Singh noted the interaction's calculated effectiveness, cementing the evidence that the entire crisis was a manufactured personal vendetta, not a failure of Oliver's character. Later that day, Maria Gomez, the kind neighbor, arrived at the penthouse and revealed a stunning secret. She had not only been Evelyn's neighbor, she had been Charlotte Hayes' housekeeper 7 years ago. Out of respect for Evelyn's privacy, she had remained silent until now. Maria pulled out a stack of old, faded photographs. These were not generic snapshots. They were pictures Maria had taken of a younger Evelyn and Oliver together, laughing and smiling in a garden. The photos were visual proof of a legitimate, loving relationship that existed before the pregnancy. Evelyn was stunned, having forgotten the existence of the pictures. Oliver realized the profound significance of the revelation. This was the final blow against Scott Harris's gold digger accusations. The narrative that Evelyn had planned the pregnancy to trap the billionaire was demolished by photographic evidence showing they had genuinely cared for one another years prior. Oliver immediately contacted Grace Allen, who confirmed the evidence was invaluable, solidifying their case just days before the final hearing. That evening, the family faced a quiet, difficult moment. Oliver found Lily attempting to hide pieces of uneaten dinner bread in her pajamas. The deep-seated trauma of food insecurity, learned during their years of poverty, was still controlling the girls' actions. Oliver gently reassured all three children that the food would never run out, and that they would never have to leave their new home. Later, Oliver and Evelyn spoke on the penthouse balcony, finally addressing the raw emotional core of their separation. Evelyn confessed that her fear of rejection and her deep-seated belief, stemming from her foster care upbringing, that reliance on others always led to disappointment had driven her away. She admitted she thought she was protecting Oliver from being trapped and the girls from being rejected. Oliver, in turn, confessed to the emptiness of his own life, describing his frantic, month-long search for her and the subsequent loneliness that drove him to work obsessively. He assured her that her fear was misplaced, and his feelings were genuine then and now. Their conversation, raw and honest, purged the remaining mistrust. They realized they were two halves of a whole, separated by circumstance and fear. They were no longer simply co-parenting. They were rebuilding a life together. The bond between Oliver and Evelyn was now fully cemented, transforming their legal necessity into an emotional certainty just in time for the final, decisive day in court. The final, decisive day in court arrived. The air outside the courthouse was thick with tension, buzzing with shouting reporters and the flash of cameras as Oliver Hayes and Evelyn Clark arrived. They were supported by a protective circle of family and allies, their attorney Grace Allen, Oliver's mother Charlotte Hayes, and the neighbor Maria Gomez, who had brought the triplets Lily, Rose, and Violet. Inside the formal courtroom, the atmosphere was solemn. Judge Patricia Davis, whose expression was unreadable, immediately addressed the gallery. She made it clear this was a family proceeding, not a circus, strictly prohibiting all cameras and recording devices. Scott Harris, the tabloid reporter, watched from the back row, expecting a public spectacle. Just before the proceedings began, Brenda Shaw slipped in, her presence a grim promise of the drama to come. Grace Allen opened the defense, declaring that they would demonstrate the family's commitment and prove that the crisis was manufactured by malice, not neglect. Maria Gomez was called as the first witness. She spoke clearly and with conviction, detailing her 4 years witnessing Evelyn's exceptional dedication as a mother. She recounted the long walks the children took for preschool and Evelyn's profound personal sacrifices. The defense then presented Maria's photographic evidence, the pictures of a younger Oliver and Evelyn together. This demonstrated a sincere, pre-existing relationship, shattering the gold digger narrative. Next, Charlotte Hayes testified. Oliver's mother confirmed the former housekeeper's employment and spoke to her son's innate responsibility. She asserted that seeing Oliver interact with Lily, Rose, and Violet had proven him to be a devoted father, stating definitively that the children belonged with their parents. The courtroom stilled as Grace Allen called the surprise witness, Brenda Shaw. Brenda walked slowly to the stand, her face etched with fear, avoiding all gazes. Under questioning, Brenda confirmed her 5 years as executive office manager and her termination. When pressed, she mumbled the truth. She was fired for her cruel treatment of the triplets. Then, the most crucial admission, she confessed to recognizing Evelyn Clark at the Summit Tower weeks before the incident. She admitted she had security remove the vulnerable mother from the property and had acted with intentional cruelty toward the children out of personal revenge against Oliver Hayes for being fired. When asked about the media coverage, Brenda confirmed she had deliberately contacted Scott Harris, admitting she fed him false information and made up claims to damage Oliver's reputation. She stated under oath that the negative coverage was based entirely on lies driven by her malice. The courtroom reacted with gasps. The entire foundation of the media circus was exposed. Scott Harris, the reporter, humiliated, quickly gathered his notes and fled the courtroom. The defense followed up by submitting the evidence of Brenda's embezzlement, proving the full extent of her conspiracy and financial motive. The state then called Linda Martin, the CPS investigator. Tension was high as she took the stand. She announced to the court that she was revising her initial recommendation. Linda Martin explained that her original concerns had been based on the dramatic life change and the negative press. However, Brenda Shaw's testimony had explained the media crisis as a malicious vendetta. Crucially, her own observations, along with those of the court monitor, Maya Singh, were overwhelmingly positive. She noted that Oliver had adjusted his schedule to prioritize the girls and that they were thriving and showed a secure attachment to both parents. She concluded that Evelyn's prior poverty was circumstantial, not negligent, and that separating the children now would cause greater harm. Her final recommendation was clear: the family should remain together. Oliver then took the stand, speaking not as a CEO, but as a devoted father. He acknowledged the 4 years he missed, calling the time a void he could never fill. He spoke of his determination to learn their routines and individual personalities, affirming that the girls were the most important people in his life. Evelyn Clark was the final witness. She rose slowly, supported by her cane, and spoke directly to the judge. She explained that she was afraid when she discovered her pregnancy, fearing Oliver would feel trapped and reject the children of his receptionist. She admitted she thought she was protecting everyone by running away, but acknowledged that she was wrong to deny Oliver his children. When asked about the gold digger accusations, Evelyn stated firmly that she never asked Oliver for a penny in 4 years, even when they were starving. She worked 3 jobs until she collapsed from illness, trying to prove she could manage alone. She confessed that her mistake was allowing fear and pride to prevent her daughters from knowing their father, pleading with the court not to separate the family now that they were finally beginning to heal. After all testimony, Judge Davis retired briefly. 10 minutes later, she called Lily, Rose, and Violet into her chambers for a private conversation, and the girls returned looking noticeably happier. Judge Davis returned to the bench and addressed the parents. She acknowledged the serious mistakes made by both Evelyn and Oliver. Evelyn for keeping the children a secret, and Oliver for maintaining a corporate environment where an employee felt unable to share important news. However, she emphasized the genuine commitment shown by both parents. Based on all the evidence, the stability shown under supervision, and the fact that the media crisis had been exposed as a conspiracy, Judge Davis delivered her ruling. Joint legal and physical custody was granted to Oliver Hayes and Evelyn Clark. Evelyn collapsed into tears of profound relief. Oliver reached for her hand, his own eyes moist with emotion. The triplets, sensing the final, successful outcome, ran to their parents. Oliver lifted Lily and Rose while Evelyn tightly hugged Violet. They were assured they would stay together. They were a family now. Leaving the courthouse, Oliver paused for the reporters. He stated simply that he was grateful to have found his daughters and their mother, requesting privacy as the family adjusted to their new reality. The long battle, fought in public and rooted in an act of cruelty, had ended in a private victory. This is the final act, the emotional payoff and resolution. I will write this section with a warm, reflective tone, focusing on closure and new beginnings, while adhering to the structure, pure narrative voice, and the required word counts. In the quiet days following the court victory, life began to settle into a new, restorative rhythm for Oliver and Evelyn. The legal battles were won, but the personal conversations, the difficult discussions about their future, had just begun. Oliver recognized Evelyn's deep-seated need for independence. She couldn't simply live in his penthouse as a recipient of his charity. She insisted she had to find a job, she had to contribute, she had to return to her sense of self-reliance. Oliver saw her struggle and understood that her true contribution would not be measured in income, but in purpose. They spoke one evening about Evelyn's long-forgotten dreams, her education degree, interrupted years ago by necessity. Oliver immediately suggested she return to college or, better yet, run the philanthropic arm of his own organization. He knew her first-hand experience was worth more than any master's degree. Evelyn's eyes lit up with excitement at the thought of truly helping families who faced the same impossible choices she had endured. Later that same night, Oliver led Evelyn to the penthouse rooftop garden. The city lights spread out below them, no longer a symbol of his isolated empire, but the backdrop to their shared future. Oliver handed her a small, heavy box. Evelyn opened it, expecting some grand gesture of jewelry, but inside rested a single, gleaming silver key. Oliver explained that it wasn't the key to his life or his holdings, but the key to their life. He had purchased a beautiful house in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. It was a true family home with a yard, needing work, but ready to be shaped entirely by their joint design and effort. It was a foundation built on equality, not obligation. Oliver confessed his enduring love, stating he wanted to be with her not merely for the sake of the girls, but because he never stopped loving her. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the key, a symbol of the security and commitment she had always craved. She accepted the proposal, finally allowing herself to trust in a love that was stronger than her fear. The transformation in Oliver was immediately evident in the boardroom. He convened a massive meeting with all Hayes Holdings executives and announced a drastic shift in corporate ethos. Profitability would no longer be the sole metric of success. He introduced new ethical guidelines covering fair wages, environmental standards, and substantial community investments. He explained that success was now measured by positive impact. The most visible change was the conversion of a significant portion of the Summit Tower into a community resource. Oliver converted the luxurious lower 2 floors of his corporate headquarters into the Hayes Family Outreach Center. It was a deliberate, powerful statement. The site of Brenda Shaw's cruelty and the emblem of his wealth was being repurposed for social good. Oliver then proudly appointed Evelyn Clark as the center's director. He emphasized to his surprised but largely supportive executives that her first-hand experience made her the single most qualified person to understand and meet the needs of struggling parents. Evelyn, stepping into her role, quickly began to design programs focusing on job training and childcare. The center was her mission, turning her personal hardship into a platform for widespread aid. The new focus proved costly in the short term, forcing Oliver to delegate more responsibilities to his trusted partner, Ethan Price. Oliver consciously declined several lucrative business opportunities, explaining that the time he spent with his daughters was infinitely more valuable than any return on investment. Having missed 4 years of their lives, Oliver would miss no more. The antagonist, Scott Harris, saw his professional life collapse entirely. The public exposure of his fabricated sources, coupled with Brenda Shaw's confession, led to a swift and humiliating settlement of Oliver's defamation lawsuit. Scott Harris found himself dismissed from the Metro Chronicle and was forced to take a minimal reporting job in Syracuse, New York. The tabloid vendetta was definitively over. 6 months after the court hearing, the Hayes Family Outreach Center opened its doors. Evelyn, radiating confidence and purpose, stood before a crowd of friendly reporters, cutting the red ribbon at the entrance of Summit Tower. The center was a bustling hub offering vocational training, childcare, and resources, embodying Evelyn's pledge that no one would be turned away because of their financial situation. Oliver proudly appointed Maria and Juan Gomez as the center's administrators, recognizing their profound commitment to their community. Evelyn, addressing the press, publicly acknowledged Maria as the first person who helped her and her children, emphasizing that the world needed more people like the Gomez family. Meanwhile, the triplets thrived. Lily, Rose, and Violet began kindergarten at Greenwood Prep, the private school where Oliver now served on the board. Oliver, noting the lack of diversity, had established a major scholarship program to ensure that children from all backgrounds enriched the school's environment. The girls quickly made friends, though they remained an inseparable trio. Evelyn, running the center and managing her family, also achieved a personal milestone, completing her final studies and receiving her college diploma. Oliver and the girls cheered wildly as she walked across the stage, a symbol of resilience and determination. The success of the Hayes Family Foundation grew quickly, becoming a powerful force for supporting single parents throughout the city. 6 months later, as the spring flowers bloomed, Oliver and Evelyn were married. The small, intimate ceremony took place in Union Square Park. Oliver, looking nervous, waited beneath an archway of white roses. His best friend Ethan Price stood by his side. The 3 girls, Lily, Rose, and Anne Violet, now 5 years old, walked down the path tossing flower petals, their nervousness replaced by beaming smiles. Then came Evelyn, beautiful and composed in a simple white dress, walking alone to signify her journey as an independent woman choosing this union freely. They exchanged vows of trust, commitment, and unconditional love. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the triplets erupted in cheers. The final, powerful scene unfolded one crisp October morning outside Summit Tower. The lobby window, which once displayed only the luxury of Aura Emporium, now featured photographs of the families helped by the Hayes Family Outreach. In the center was a portrait of Oliver, Evelyn, and the three girls. A woman passing by recognized the family, stopping to thank them for their wonderful work. Oliver, smiling, credited his wife as the heart of everything they did. Evelyn simply shook her head, stating, "We do it together. That's what family means." As they walked back to their car, Violet tugged on Oliver's hand, her small face serious. "Daddy, can we help more families like ours? When I grow up, I want to find more lost daddies for kids who need them." Evelyn's eyes welled up as she knelt beside her daughter. Oliver knelt too, looking at his wife and his three children. In their innocent, hopeful faces, he saw the true direction of his life. "That's what we'll do then, sweetheart. We'll keep finding ways to bring families together." And in that moment, standing outside the tower where it all began, Oliver Hayes, once defined by his wealth, understood what true richness really meant.